So yeah, we're going to look at Unit 4, Wider Professional Practice and Development in Education and Training. There are a number of bits on this one. This is perhaps the least onerous of the mandatory units. As you know, the first 4 are mandatory. After that, I've chosen specific units that will match more or less what you do. Will match more or less what most teachers do. So it hits on there. But you're quite at liberty to have a look through the units on the qualification spec sheet, and if you can see any on there that actually would suit you better, then we can put something together for that as well. I can take you through it. Okay. One of the ones I picked up with the last group, they'd done. I forgot what it's called now. That unit 6. It's what is it called? It's one where you do research on a particular subject, and they'd already covered it in a qualification they'd done previously, so they were able to use the work from there and APL it across. Right. So that's just in case you've done anything like that. But there are other units on there, but be aware of the credit value. Yeah. The total credits you need is 120. Yeah. So if you drop a 15 unit and pick a 6 up, you're going to be short. Yeah. Just letting you reminded.
Yeah. I had that. Yeah, I had that last year with doing NCFE at a lower level for people and then swapping units and it being like,
you've got to be very careful when you do that.
Yeah.
So what I'll do, I'll pull this one up because it's my favourite sheet I've done for each one of these, so it makes it open this up. Save. It's asking me to save it each time that it appears down here. Right. Come on, Word, I'm on 5G here. Right, okay. So looking at it, it's looking at defining the concept of professionalism and dual professionalism in education and training. Again, chapter 28 of the ebook, Read and Respond, Teaching and Learning in Higher Education, and for this assignment, explain your response to 1.1 with an example from your own teaching area. Yeah. Okay. One of the things going back into there, when I first went into teaching, way back in the time, because I was a mechanical engineer, not a teacher. I went into teaching at a rather late age. I was well into my 40s when I went into teaching. The lecturers that were in technical colleges, which were the ones we were working in, didn't really want us there. We appeared to them as rather a threat. Yeah. And this dual professionalism is that you bring a professional ideas and status and a whole host of things with you from a previous life or
from the other role,
profession, as well as teaching professionalism in the teaching and the way you go about that as well. I always argued that there isn't that much difference really. If you are a professional person in terms of the way you work, then that professionalism is very similar. It might have a different direction, but in terms of professionalism per se, it is actually very much the same.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's stuff in there to have a look at on there. And again, this is 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, until you get to 5, which is the last one, actually. Yeah. 5, for some reason, has got 4 learning objectives in it. I've put quite a bit of stuff down here to look at, but I'm not going to go down there at this stage.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm just going to look at 1 and 2. Now, Unit 2 is looking at ways in which social, political and economic factors have influenced educational policy. Read and Respond 2.2. Read and Respond, here you have to look at your work, college, school policies and explain how curriculum development impacts in your area and how the local education authority, national policies, economic, social factors have all more than impinged on education certainly in the last 15 years. We've seen in the last 7 or 8 years, we've seen some massive cuts in a whole host of areas. and decisions that have been made that have been not the best in terms of how it's going to work. An example, I mean, you can read through these yourself, but I'll give you one example now. Over the last few years, the adult education budget, it includes apprenticeships and that sort of thing. I was at a meeting three and a half years ago when they decided to put the levy on to employers if they took on an apprentice. It means they would have to pay a levy. We said it would kill it, and they poo-pooed it, said no it wouldn't, and all the rest of it that went on. Subsequently, last year, the adult education budget was underspent by 90%.
Wow.
Because crazy. It had exactly killed it off. Now they've actually changed things now. They're actually devolving the budget. Instead of coming from London now, the local areas are now being given that, a patch of that budget themselves, and they will decide how it's spent and who gets it and all the rest of it. We get Greater Manchester just got one now, and we're actually looking into that to see if we can get in there. But anyway, that's just some ideas about that one. And it's, again, analyse the impact of those current educational policies on curriculum and practice in your own area of specialism.
Whose shall I use to try and get the ones from the last place, or maybe look at the ones in the new place? Maybe I can get hold of them.
I would look at the ones in the new place, really, because, again, it's not... The thing to look at is explain ways in which social, political and economic factors influence educational policy. Now, that is one area, but again, you can use the college or where actually you are at the moment, and what their policies do in terms of curriculum development and how it's affected by funding from the LEA and other places. One of the other learners on this programme is Adele. She's got her own business that she teaches music,
right?
And she goes into schools, in an area to teach music to a range of kids, some with special needs, a whole range of them, and has to develop, processes to actually cover all those things. Now, obviously, she's been affected by some of the cuts in funding. In terms of who pays for her to come in to deliver this particular programme to this particular young person. It may be a one-to-one session because they've got special needs or whatever, and that's been affected. She told me that she's been affected by that, and I've said that when you get onto Unit 4, you'll have a big axe to grind. So she's done on that.
That's really similar to where I was previous, and I'm still teaching there, like on a Friday.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether I should just use those because I've already got them, and the funding does come from those streams, whereas the new place is a uni, so and it's kind of a private one, so it's a bit different.
Not a problem. The point is, this is a story of you, what you're telling me, how you actually work, how you perform. What your comments are on here between you and me, don't go any further. Basically say what you like on here. And it fits in with what it's asking you to do. So there's no hard and fast rules that you've got to do this or you've got to do that. You use the material that you've got, and support that with text. And anything that you've got that you can do that with, that's fine. That's not an issue at all. What I will say on there is you can keep this 2.1. It can be general, but 2.2 is specific, again, about your own area and how you work, how it affects you. Quite a lot of these units work the same way. It asks you to give an idea or an outline of something in general terms, and then look at how those affect you. But again, it's the other way around. In this time, you've got LO1, you've got a define and an explain, which is fairly straightforward. Again, 2.1, it's an explain, but then you've got an analysis of the impact of current educational policies on the curriculum and practice in your own area of specialism. Now, if you've got, you know, documentation on that from the other place and how you can use and see how it's impinged on that, then yeah, great, use that, no problem at all.
Okay.
Now, I don't really want to run into LO3 at this point, but I'll just have a quick look at it to make sure you've got no hiccups. Because what I usually recommend, or what I've been recommending actually now, Ben, is that when you get to a new unit, if you'll do learning objectives 1 and 2, yeah, and then send them in to me.
Okay.
I can then give you some feedback on those. And if you've been sort of wandering off the direction a bit, we can straighten it up before you do the rest of it. Then usually what happens when the rest of it comes in, it's pretty straightforward and done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's fine. Well, I'll aim to do those this week.
Yeah.
So that then, because I guess next week we'll be doing the next parts of this. So. Yeah.
Again, there's stuff in here that you can use, but also it's looking at the roles of stakeholders and external bodies in educational training. That is basically your awarding bodies, people like that, the local education authority sometimes, if it's, you know, you're involved in that level. And explain how being accountable to those stakeholders and impacts on the organisation on the organisations. It's not specific, this one. So
is it okay for me to talk about like multiple places then? Because they have different. Right. Because I know that they have different impacts and different.
Yeah, exactly. That's brilliant. Yeah. So running back to, before we go, I'm going to go back. So let me shut that down a minute. I'm going to go back to 3. I'll open that up. Go on, faster. That's better. Oops. Quick look at 3.1. People involved, the different patterns, part of the training cycle, the assessment of learning and for learning, medal and mission, petty, check and correct. That's pretty well what I do, check and correct, yeah. So that's what I'm asking you to do, is put learning objectives 1 in and 2 in, yeah. I'll look through those, make any corrections if they're necessary. It may be I put it aside, good, that's fine, carry on like that, yeah. Because when I do the review, if it says okay, I'll go down the side, then that's it. I've gone through the stuff, I'm happy with it. I don't want you to write, you know, details. I'll put that in the box at the top, what you've done and why I passed it, yeah.
Yeah.
But in the formative assessment that I do in review on here, it'll just say good, or I'll put a note in if there's something, you know, you need to look at.
Yeah.
And working through that way, that's check and correct, yeah.
Right.
And it's looking at opportunities for giving you a heads up on what the next bit's going to be like as well. Your holistic approaches, two-way feedback, ATHE, and questioning approaches. William, I've not read that one. Yeah, might be worth having a look at. But there's just some of the guides on there. If you're not sure what those are, if there's not any further information on the VLE, just Google them quick and have a look.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I probably won't need to tell you this anyway, but I will do because you are teaching. If you're going to look at a piece on one of these, just make some notes on it, yeah, and then write what you're going to say off your notes rather than what's there, yeah.
Yeah.
Because what happens then is that little or no of what's the actual quote is in your work then.
Yeah. It doesn't become like.
Although you can refer to, you know, reference it by all means, yeah. But again, you'll have written it from your own point of view.
Yeah.
And again, looking at the application of assessing, the link between initial assessment and diagnostic. Like I said, most of what you've written here, what's asking for that you've written in, it's in. It just needed identifying. That's all. from the bit that you need to change in this bit here. I think that's, yeah, it carries on that. It's a big long one actually on the, you can have a read through that. It just gives you some idea. Yeah. Traffic light cards is another one. I don't use it in the teaching process, but I use it in quality assessment, quality standards checking. If I'm looking at stuff that we need to have in place and it's there, it gets a green. If it's but something needs doing with it, it gets a yellow. If it's something I can't find and we need to sort out, it gets a red. Yeah. But that can be applied to teaching as well in some respect.
we used that for some of the learners with like learning difficulties. So like for them to say how they liked the session.
Yeah, it makes it easy for them. Yeah.
I use that as an example then.
Yeah. Okay, I don't think there's anything complicated in there. Have you got any questions for me? Have you got any concerns about it or anything like that?
No. I think it's just doing that little bit at a time. So that's how I just broke down the other one and just like did one, one section at a time. So. Yeah,
and again, it is fairly straightforward, and I'll repeat anything. If you've got anything to send it, just send it me in on Learner Work, and I'll pick that up and have a look and send it you back. I will check my mail to make sure it's not gone, it's not in my outbox or something like that,
okay.
And in any event, I'll resend it so you've got it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Ben.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks, Phil.
That's a short session tonight, and I think that will do as we move on. And I will speak to you next week.
Cool. Nice one, Phil.
Ben.
Thanks, mate. Have a good week.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Speak soon. Bye.